Ugh. And I love you. I need you. You're the only one I love you. I love you. I need you. You're the only one I need. And you got some for me. Cause I, and I need. You're the, you at work. You gotta quit that. Quit that. Quit that, twin. Quit that job. Quit that job.
So about 3 years.
Dang, that McDonald's code. That McDonald's thing is crazy. Quit that job. Ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, where my unemployed at? Where my unemployed at? 2 by 5. 5 by 2. Yeah. What's going on, y'all? What's going on? Chat, where we at? Live with the TP files. Day 2. Got some major updates. Kinda, but not really. How do we I do want y'all to know that we did get a shout out from Big Bro FD Signifier yesterday. Round of applause. Round of applause. Round of applause. Round of applause. We'll give people a second to come in. I'll re-announce the news. But yeah, we did get a shout out specifically on the thumbnail. Specifically on the thumbnail. How do I turn this? There's a way to turn this a photo. There's a way to change the size of a photo. Resize. Okay, there it is. Custom size. Okay, there it is. Hold on, I'm trying to change something. I'm trying to figure out how to 1000 by 400. Everybody get the opportunity to come in, speak, say good morning to each other. It's probably because I tagged them. So yeah, that's I just thought about that. That's probably why he got that post, that notification like that. He got the notification because we tagged him, chat. Which is fine. Which is fine. Which is fine. It's the first time somebody's catching live. We're gonna get started in just a second. Shouts out to the notification guys, the 49 that's in here. The employed work from home are in here. I see that. I do see that. What's good, bro? First time catching you live. Yeah, shouts out to you. Shouts out to you. We see you. We see you and you're seen. We see you and you're seen. You understand that? We see you and you're seen. Hey, this is gonna. By the time I was gonna say something. Okay. So yesterday we left off with the Tyler Perry files. We kind of left off in a place and space where we were talking about the landscape of Black media. We were talking about the landscape of what it looked like for FD Signifier during the time. We were talking about how it looked like for each other at the time, pre Tyler Perry. pre-Tyler Perry, what did that look like? How many black, how can I say this? How many pieces of art, pieces of media did you guys consume as a child that was written by black people for black people, not by black people for white people? That was also a part of the conversation. We definitely had those conversations. And so now I'm performative, unemployed. So now we're taking on the second portion of this live stream. And I am a little sick. I'm pushing through this. We're taking on the second portion of this live stream, and we're going to watch part 2
that you made
of FD Signifier's masterclass on TP to God. Make sure you share it. Let's get it started.
Part 2, Lemons to Lemonade. Tyler Perry was born Emmett Perry in New Orleans, Louisiana in 1969, putting him towards the beginning of the Gen Xers, which, while I don't put a ton of weight into generational stereotypes, especially for older communities, it does track like a lot. And I think a lot of Gen Xers, especially Black Gen Xers, were raised in a harsh era saturated with trauma. Xers are born at the end of the civil rights movement, coming of age during the crack epidemic, entering adulthood post the '94 crime bill.
100,000 more police on the streets, expand the death penalty. That's how we'll protect America.
Let us roll up our sleeves to roll back this awful tide of violence. We have the tools now. Let us get about the business of using them.
They faced a harshness that would make the average Black millennial or Gen Z curl into the fetal position.
Like most other major cities, Boston has declared war on drugs.
Many people don't like the police crackdown. They say some innocent people are caught up in the sweep.
The start of another hard year in the Big Easy.
I do wonder where he's going with this, because what I will say is, people act as though, let me see when, I think he said when he was born, I missed it. But people do act as though after the civil rights movement, America was just peaches and cream. America was just, oh man, hey man. Well, we fought a good fight. We fought hard and long, and hey, guess those blacks beat us again. So we're just gonna continue to move on. That's not what happened. All right, that's not what happened.
4 shot at Mardi Gras. Then 4 others gunned down in this house in what's being called the Ash Wednesday Massacre.
Scared to come out here.
What makes you afraid to come out?
People getting mugged, pocketbooks get snatched, all that junk, man. You ain't coming out your house at night like that.
So you're literally held captive in your own house, huh?
That's right, that's right.
What do you think would solve the situation here?
Clean it up.
Perry grew up impoverished and in an abusive household.
Look at young Tyler Perry. Hey, I actually thought about this while I was not doing the live or whatever. After last live, I have an uncle by marriage. He is actually married to one of Tyler Perry's sisters. He is married to one of Tyler Perry's sisters. What? He's married to one of Tyler Perry's sisters. No funny shit. And I spend Christmases with this woman. Now, that's not saying too much crazy. It's not the most insane thing. Because also, for what it's worth, Tyler Perry does not. I feel like Tyler Perry's not seen with his family a lot, if that makes sense. Like in current day. But, I just wanted to bring that up. I forgot about that. That's a real thing, though. Good TP, man. Look at him. Young, long neck.
And the abuse Perry survived was universal. He was physically abused. He watched his mother and his siblings suffer abuse. And he was also sexually abused by both men and women. It cannot be understated that for all the negative attributions I'm going to hurl at Perry, he is first and foremost a survivor. And this survive mentality can be seen through his work and the moves he's made as a businessman over his career, pushing him to develop his capacity as an actor and creator to begin with. Perry says that in order to survive his trauma, he would often dissociate. He would make up stories and characters and people to engage with when the reality of his life was too overwhelming.
Knowing that tidbit, does that change how you view Tyler Perry's works? Well, yeah, knowing that tidbit that like, because I don't know if people do know that or don't know that. I'm just asking for those that may not know. But now knowing that tidbit of like, hey, this is potentially why Tyler Perry does make the type of content that he makes based off of his history of abuse, being a survivor, all that stuff like that. Let me see. Does that Does that make it like, do you change how you look at those different things? Tyler Perry's movies equal black. I'm probably gonna change this title. Yeah, long title, but nonetheless. Yeah, do y'all feel as though that changes the way that you look at those things? And also, do you do that type of work when you go consume any sort of author or any sort of director or any sort of writer or whatever the case may be? Like, do y'all feel as though y'all consume that information before you go and consume the piece of media, or do you consume it separately? Because I think that what people don't understand in the artistic realm is that, you know, my experiences dictate how I'm going to go about doing this book or telling this tale or whatever the case may be. So even if we like gave 4 different writers the concept for a Harry Potter, like the first Harry Potter, Chamber of Secrets or whatever it is, all of them would have differences in how that story is told based off of their different experiences. And so when people criticize Tyler Perry, it's well known, but I don't know if people take into consideration his past before they look at the movies and stuff like that.
Distance yourself from your father, who, let's be honest, he sounds pretty brutal. He used to beat you relentlessly as a young man, which must have had an effect on you.
Yeah, well, of course it did.
His first set or playhouse was a space under his porch where he would go hide when trying to avoid his father. To say that Perry has daddy issues would be an extreme understatement. His father was the arbiter of abuse in his home, and at times he resented his mother for allowing his father to stay around. What makes things worse, but in some ways explains the abuse, is that the man that Perry thought was his father was actually not his father. Tyler actually says he experienced relief that the man that was so abusive to him as a child was not in any way blood related to him.
But you know, I was able to forgive him in my mid-20s, and that changed my life, because what I did was, what I think a lot of people don't realize or understand is that their parents have a story too. Now, so whatever happened in your life because of them you really need to find out the story so that you can understand it.
But still to this day, Tyler financially supports the man he knew as his father, and he does so.
My mic isn't on, y'all. Somebody said, can you increase my mic volume? I got to mute it for a second. We'll need some popcorn.
Because although his father was abusive in all these ways, he never shirked on his role as a provider. In fact, Tyler credits the fact that his father was abusive yet a provider with shaping his own idea of work ethic and dedication. This concept of forgiveness, of perseverance, is so incredibly key to understanding Perry both positively and negatively. Perry credits his ability to forgive and persevere for making his success possible. But as you'll see later, this framework that he's abided by has a downside. Maybe not necessarily for him, but definitely for everyone else.
Man, one thing my father gave to me is the man had the most stupid work ethic I've ever seen in my life. Rain, sleet, hurricanes, lightning, he was going. Even though we don't speak, he gets a check every month. I bought him a house and he's taken care of because I'm giving him exactly what he gave me. And I feel good about that because no matter what he did, he still made sure I had food on the table, right? So coming from that place, watching his work ethic, I definitely have that because I don't know what kind of man I would have been had I seen a man that didn't work, that was laying home on the couch all the time, you know? So, yeah.
I don't think I have to do a lot of explaining to engage with how unintentionally revealing that is about Tyler Perry as an entrepreneur and a business owner and a filmmaker. The fact that he credits his abusive relationship with his father as shaping his own capacity to work and run his business is not something to just be passed over. Tyler also credits his mothers and his aunts with shaping his world. Tyler had an undying love for his mother, who was his only solace for most of his life.
I do see some people saying this. I just want to address it real quick. This isn't like an unknown concept for victims of abuse, specifically successful victims of abuse, to have these types of feelings towards their abuser, especially when they're their parental figure or somebody that is respected by them simultaneously. For those who haven't been through those different things, complex nonetheless, but it is still, you know, something that I see quite often in this community, or not in the community, but in those that have been abused, is that they do. I mean, you take care of your parents. And take care of your parents. Even if they aren't on speaking terms to this day, like he said, he provides for him what he provided for Tyler Perry.
They were incredibly close, and when she passed in 2009, Tyler states he went through a deep depression. And the Madea character is loosely based off of his experiences with her and his aunts, both in the character's bombastic and comedic stylings, but also in the toughness and tough love ethos that is inherent within the character. The other highly significant force in Tyler's early life that we have to engage with is the Black church. I hope to one day make a standalone video about the Black church in the future, so I'm gonna gloss over some things here. The Black church deserves a deep discussion on its own, but you cannot engage with Tyler Perry as a media figure without recognizing how his success and power is intrinsically tied to his connection to the Black church and the Black church's most important marketing demographic, Black women.
Like, what were the underground, behind the scenes moves that you made to create like relevance for yourself?
Church, man, and Black women.
Okay.
Man, Black women, like Maze right now. Maze hadn't done an album since 1911.
Right on.
but they can sell out a building, an arena right now because that loyalty. And these women that I went to church with, that I grew up with, you know, I was speaking a language that they understood because of my mother and my sisters growing up at their hip, watching their pain and all the hell that they went through. So that they endeared to me, man. I was cousin, uncle, brother, you know, and they have been my sole support the whole time.
Perry came up in the church, and for a moment he thought he might go into theology. However, he surprisingly didn't have the knack.
Is that Judge Mathis?
This didn't stop him from engaging with the church. However, his plays all follow in the long tradition of the gospel church stage play. While later in his film and TV career, Perry would divert from overtly religious themes and messages more consistently, everything about him in his earliest days as a playwright and his first films is
church.
based on the gospel stage play
No
tradition,
cap.
as well as what's often referred to as the chicken circuit, or more appropriately today, the urban play or theater circuit. In the 1900s, while still under Jim Crow, the chitlin circuit was essentially a loose network of theaters and venues where Black music and art and plays could be seen. Not every Black artist at the time was in the Harlem Renaissance. There was only one Duke Ellington, and many Black musicians, playwrights, and performers were only really viable in Black venues and had to travel from venue to venue to make their wares. But the threat of Jim Crow and sundown towns made the perspective of touring music or film a hazardous activity, so this network of venues became integral in establishing the who's and where's of where Black art could be seen for decades in the South, Midwest, and Northeast. It eventually earned the moniker of the chitlin circuit. I'm not quite sure why and where that term was first used, but it is highly appropriate for this arts movement and for Tyler Perry in particular because of the nature of what a chitlin is. For those who don't know, chitlins are stewed pig intestines, and they are known for a strong, bad odor that they give off when being cooked for obvious reasons. Chitlins date back to slavery, as they are one of many forms of cuisine created out of necessity by enslaved Africans due to the fact that they were often disallowed from getting the more viable parts of any farm animals. Slave owners would take the key parts of any animals for themselves.
He is really breaking down what chitlins are, which is a crazy concept to me.
Modern soul food staples out of them, such as ham hocks and pig feet. However, again, for obvious reasons,
I had some ham hock greens last night. Disgusting, y'all. Disgusting, literally. Awful.
Chitlins have fell out of favor in terms of soul food delicacies. But it is an example of Black American.
Chitlin's been gentrified though. Let me see. They got new white people chitlins. Let me see. Gentrified. Chitlins for real have been this is totally irrelevant to what's been going on. But I done seen chitlins go for like $40, $50 for a cup of chitterlings. Has anybody in the chat had these before? They're not. I couldn't even imagine them being like good. The gentrification of soul food. I don't know why I thought I would get like a decent picture. Yeah, these are. Okay. Let's get back to the video. My bad. I don't know why I did that.
Ingenuity under duress, similar to things I said earlier about Black creators trying to enter Hollywood. It's an example of Black people making the most out of what they have and sharing that with others, literally in this case, making salad out of shit. And that's what the chitlin circuit was when Perry emerged on the scene in the early 90s. He was one of many an aspiring Black creative making viable independent art with shoestring budgets, church singers, and a dream. Perry moved from New Orleans to Atlanta in the 90s in pursuit of becoming a playwright and worked on his first play, I Know I've Been Changed, on the side for years until it debuted in 1992 with pretty much no success, costing Perry his life savings.
Damn.
I had worked selling used cars, I was a bill collector. I worked really, really hard. I did not mind working. I worked really hard, saved my income tax check, and I had saved about $12,000, and I moved to Atlanta, and I decided to put all the money into this play called I Know I've Been Changed, my first show. And I thought, I'm gonna put this play up. I know it's gonna be successful. I know it's gonna work. I'm going to see 1,200 people over the course of a weekend. I put all the money in, I rehearsed it, I hung the lights, I had everything ready to go, and nobody showed up. There were 30 people in the audience, and I knew all of them.
But he didn't give up. He continued to work on and refine it while building up his resources to the point of being homeless and sleeping in his car for a second. But 6 years later, he brought it back with a vengeance to sell out crowds, giving him enough resources to eventually rent out the legendary Fox Theater, which he also sold out, and gave him more resources, catapulted him to the top of the chitlin circuit and really beyond it. In I Know I've Been Changed.
I wonder what he did in that time frame to make the play different, or what was the difference? Was it the play in and of itself, or how he marketed, or whatever the case may be? I do wonder what the difference is between the first time he launched it and the second time he launched it.
We pretty much see everything that we think of with Tyler Perry today. It's a story that focuses on issues of abuse and neglect, surviving sexual trauma, addiction, and of course, how God can solve all these things. It's a musical, which has always been a key factor.
Oh, my bad.
In the gospel play tradition, something that never reemerged in Tyler's films until recently, from what I'm told. It stars several extremely talented, big voice Black women who fall in that tradition of church belters, women who can bring the house down from the pulpit. Think Patti LaBelle, Fantasia, Jennifer Hudson, etc. But really probably better, these are the people that inspired them, right? There's no Madea yet, though. Perry does play Joe, while not exactly the same character we would see in Madea movies in the future. He's still very much the same character, which is something that'll come up later. But if you watch the handful of clips that are around, you can kind of see the early version of what Tyler Perry would become. His next play, as far as I can tell, seems to be an adaptation of T.D. Jakes' self-help book, Woman Thou Art Loosed. Now, the book was a piece of self-help nonfiction, but the play is a story of a black woman with a traumatic past, substance abuse, abusive partner, yada, yada, yada. At least I think it's kind of hard to verify because the original work of nonfiction has been reimagined so many different times. It has so many different spin-offs and actually 2, it seems, different movies. So I'm not going to say a lot about it here because I don't quite know exactly what this play was, but it is said to be the second play he brought to the stage and was also highly successful and probably further entrenched him in the larger community of black church play, black church in general spaces. His third play was I Can Do Bad All By Myself, and it's also where he finally introduces the character of Madea to the world. Madea was actually intended to be a small role in the play that he did along with another actress, but when that actress no-showed a show, Perry ended up having to rewrite this role on the fly. And as the show continued, this thing that he came up with out of necessity at the last minute was so effective with the crowd that he ended up reworking the entire play to have as much Madea in it as possible, and an icon was born.
Madea was an accident, y'all, and I know y'all didn't know. I didn't know it. Madea was an accident. I just want y'all to, we need to really focus on that because I think that people's starting gripe with Tyler Perry is Madea from like a artistic standpoint. Total accident. Not total, but you know what I'm getting at.
He started out with Daddy Joe, and I know it been changed. And then he moved to the character Madea. The first stop we did was in Chicago. It was Madea and another artist that was supposed to be in the play.
Sold all these tickets out in Chicago for her to be there, and she never showed up. So all these people come in looking for her, and she wasn't there.
It was really scary. I had to go on stage and do the Madea lines and her lines.
You got bigger laughs.
Well, I look today.
Oh, you look nice too, Miss May.
Thank you so much, Robert.
By the time we got to the end of the weekend, the theater was full and everybody was hungover. He had completely worked the play. Madea had become the star.
I Can Do Bad All By Myself is again the story of a black woman suffering abusive relationship, trauma, drug abuse, sexual abuse, etc., etc., and of course,
I do want to ask for those that don't know all these plays and stuff like that, because I think that there's people that are definitely consuming this or that consumed FD's video or stuff like that. They saw Tyler Perry for the videos, the movies and stuff like that, as opposed to the the plays. Do y'all not? How do y'all feel about the fact that some of his movies are just plays reworked again and again and again and again and again? I actually think it's impressive. I think it's pretty impressive. And I would wonder, I need y'all to go back and look, do your own due diligence, do your own research, how different the plays are from the movies. Are the plays less dramatized than the movies? Did he, once he got to the big screen, did he just totally throw the baby out with the bathwater and just triple down, quadruple down in whatever people's gripes are about him? Got some more homework for y'all to do. Y'all look at that.
Ending with God.
You should be able to find these plays.
To get over it. And I'm yada-yadaing this because this is 50% of all of Tyler Perry's films, if not more, and a unique, complex aspect of his legacy, which again stems from his connecting to the Black church. The Black church is a unique, important, and very powerful cultural force historically among Black Americans, and this goes all the way back to slavery. Churches were initially the only places many enslaved Africans were allowed to collect together in private without overseers or watchful eyes of slave owners. And this led them to be unofficial community organizing spaces. Many a slave rebellion or escape was planned in a church pew. Fast forward to Jim Crow into the civil rights movement, and that tradition is still in place. In fact, at that time, the church was an extremely powerful institution, not just spiritually, but politically, as it was the Southern religious tradition of activist pastors like Martin Luther King who fueled the civil rights movement. However, as with many aspects of Black culture going into the 70s and 80s, there was a great shift that would make the church more friendly to a Black capitalist message and less engaged with any type of resistance and organizing that churches were known for. prosperity gospel became the theme.
Because that says that I'm right there next to my miracle. I'm right there, right at the door of my due season.
Mega churches
That's
began
funny.
to emerge. This also coincides with the crack epidemic, and the church took on almost like a triage space for many black women who had nowhere else to go. And we also saw many black men abandon the church either because of drug use or because of crime, or really a multitude of reasons. I'm really glossing over things there. But just understand at a certain point, the church stopped being a communal space and started being highly dominated by black women in terms of numbers, but not power. Not at the pulpit, mind you, but in the pews. The black church was and still is a patriarchal institution, but it had lost its political role and had become more of a balm during difficult times, providing solace to downtrodden black women who were nursing addicted family members, praying for sons and grandsons, and trying to avoid mistreatment from the society at large. And they were doing this all while still doing their best to uphold patriarchal frameworks in their own way. Hence this transition of who made up the church never being reflected in who ran the church. To this day, only about 10% of black churches are ran by black women. And this also reflects in Tyler Perry's success and his ability to constantly rely on that audience for resources, even when he's not putting the most into his art.
I want y'all to know too, and I'm not saying I'm like a church going person, like wholeheartedly. Like I'm not even gonna fake it. But my audience is 70-something% male. I want to say 70-something or it's either like high 70s, low 80s. And I'm pretty sure a good percentage of y'all are black. Go to a black church as a black male, especially a young black male, because I know my demographic. Gang, they will roll out the red carpet for you. They will do anything and everything for you, especially in this day and age. You will be in an anomaly. They will cling to you. They will give you the big piece of chicken. They'll do anything and everything for you. And if you ever need to find a wife, because that's what everybody's claiming. Oh, I don't know where to find my wife. I don't know where to Go to the black church, and there will be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of the aunties, of the grandmas, of the mamas that have daughters ready, willing, and able for you. Just be a present black man in the church and see how much they give to you. See how forgiving they will be for you, of you. They'll give you everything and then some. Why? Because you're an anomaly. Like what FD is talking about is so true, especially from a historical lens. But if you like look at what's going on now, physically go into the church and see how it's still reflected. It's very much the same. And especially now, well, at least in the experiences that I've had over the past like 2 years, not a lot of young in the church either. Not a lot of young in the physical church. But even if you go to these new mega E churches or what they call them, like influencer churches, I promise you the ratio is way off. It's a lot of women, not a lot of men. And not to say this about anybody that we're talking about in this conversation, but if you wanted to, you could sell piss and tell them it was lemonade if you was a man, simply due to the fact that not a lot of y'all, the power dynamic still exists. We're uploading these different things, and you know who gonna challenge you? They're not challenging you. Why? Because they don't want you to run off. They do not want you to run off. You wanted the good brothers. So sell that piss if you want to. They'll drink it and tell you it's the best lemonade they ever had. No cap.
While there's virtue in some of Tyler Perry's work that we will discuss, Perry was not serving black women a healthy media diet with his plays and films. However, he was serving that population like no one else had. This is another challenge we have to face when criticizing Tyler Perry. Regardless of how we might feel about his work, he came up by providing a service in black media that no one really was or seemed to be fully invested in. And specifically for working class black women that have found themselves erased, Tyler Perry targeted them and centered them in his narratives. Black women as a whole were struggling, but when there was representation for black women in the 90s and early 2000s, you'd be lucky if they in any way resembled what a lot of black women looked like or were experiencing in the world. Consider how black men felt about hip hop in the 80s and 90s and how hip hop gave black men this way to imagine themselves in the world that nothing had done up until that point. And in doing that, often created barriers for black women to appreciate it in the same way. There was engagement with black women's experiences in a lot of media regarding white supremacy and poverty and patriarchy. Think of like the women of Brewster Place, Crooklyn, Claudine, but they were few and far between and tended to blink when it was time to really get into the ugly nitty gritty of what some black women were experiencing and wanted to see. When it was time to show the raw, ugly reality that some black women faced at the hands of black men in this time, in the crack epidemic, in the 94 crime bill era, a lot of black male filmmakers may be held back as to not to contribute to further demonization of black men in the media, a complex challenge that black women have had to navigate for generations. But Perry had no such trepidation. In fact, you might even say he reveled in it. Perry was willing to put out there everything that many black women were going through: physical, emotional, and sexual violence, often at the hands of black men, sometimes even at the hands of other black women, struggles with addiction and self-worth, fear and pain on motherhood, and lots and lots and lots of trauma. Perry—
The reason why this is important to me is because this is like one of people's chief criticisms. And I don't think I see Oz in the chat right now, but I would wonder how he feels about what's being displayed here. So the concept of today, if people can't tell by the title and thumbnail, is that, you know, people is breaking down Tyler Perry's works. Is breaking down Tyler Perry's works. And so one of the chief criticisms about him is that he's always making men look like the villain. He's always showing this trauma when it comes to black women and what they have to deal with, and this, that, and the third and the fourth. And I think that what FD is saying here, and what I've argued sometimes, is that like there's different portions of black media for everybody now. Back then there wasn't. So now you can find black queers, black nerds, black jocks, black people thriving, black people in despair, black trauma. If you want the slave movie, you can get the slave movie. If you want something more palatable for whites, you can find that. You can find all those different things. But during these times, whether it was consciously or unconsciously, people made certain films about black people not addressing certain things or not talking about these different, you know, topics. Maybe because you might have got called names, maybe because it got attributed to a narrative, maybe because, you know, just all these different things. And I think if you want an example of what's being spoken about, you could look to other minority groups that are now getting their limelight when it comes to television. I oftentimes tap into how Hispanics or Spanish people or Latin people, whatever the correct term for it is, feel about the representation that they get in the media today, how they feel about some of their biggest players like George Lopez, and, you know, what that does to them and, you know, how it works for them in real time. Same thing with Indian people, same thing with Middle Eastern people, how they feel about the representation, how they feel about some of their biggest names like Mindy Kaling, how they feel about all these, you know, different things that are going on with the representation that they have in the media. And for what it's worth, sometimes it's not always positive. It doesn't show the full story. It shows this palatable version. Asians too. They've recently gotten a big boost and a big shine in media, and they're going through their whole like ability to tell stories and all this other stuff like that. Yeah, somebody said George Lopez. Dog, that was one of my like first successful videos. gang, Mexican people don't fuck with George Lopez based off of what's being said. Based off of what's being said. I'll tell you the title of it because it was one of my first videos that did like decent numbers, if I'm not mistaken. No, not even if I'm not mistaken. I know I'm not mistaken. Let me find it. I'm on my channel right now. There it is. This is from 3 years ago. Outlier. And you know what's crazy? I did a thing about Tyler Perry. Because people had this criticism about Tyler Perry. I mean, not Tyler Perry, but Mindy Kaling and how she did Velma. And then I did this one, George Lopez hates Mexican people like Ralph Barbosa. 78K. This is when I was pulling a K per video. K.A.O. Meezy, and boy, oh boy, Idios Mio, George Lopez is killing the Latin community. But before we get into it, make sure you hit that.
The OG, you are the legend. We expect more from you. For so long, we took so much pride seeing you on TV. We took so much pride seeing you on the silver screen in movies. We took so much pride buying tickets to your show.
The claims were like George Lopez is like a self-hating Mexican man. He doesn't promote the next generation. In fact, he goes out of his way to downplay the next generation of Mexican and Latino comedians or actors or whatever the case may be. So much so that in certain instances, George Lopez has said like, oh, well, if you want me to be on said show, then I have to be the only Mexican. I have to be the only Mexican. If there are other Mexicans on this, I do not want to be on this. I will not be on this, knowing that he's the biggest draw. And so they basically said, okay, we'll keep you as the only Mexican on the show or whatever the case may be. Weird shit. Weird stuff. But nonetheless, how this relates back to Tyler Perry. I took a detour here. Oh, but yeah, so I think that especially when it comes to representation, these things come in phases. These things come in flavors, and Tyler Perry represents probably an uncomfortable flavor for a lot of people when it comes to the Black experience or the things that Black people go through. And he specifically is talking to one audience that is going to boost him and love him, that has historically boosted him and loved him, show up for the play, show up to the theater, show up to the merch, all these other things. And he talks about their lived experience. I know it's a new thing to talk about it, but yeah, people do live the experience of a Taraji P. Henson and Straw. Now, granted, it is played up solely due to the fact that it's a movie. We get that, but those things are real life experiences. And people hate Tyler Perry for that, partially because it makes people feel like, or partially because people don't think it's real. But the other part is because it's uncomfortable. Truly, it's uncomfortable. And others just avoid talking about some of these certain things.
Perry gave voice to this in a way and at a scale that no one else would early on. And he added the Christian undertones to it, so he ended up replicating the type of emotion.
She killing it in the back. Hey,
that would often keep these same women coming to the congregation every Sunday for church. Further, something Perry doesn't get enough credit for is his maybe not necessarily robust, but
who is this woman dancing in the background, yo? What? She is going insane.
Would often keep these same women coming to the congregation every Sunday for church. Further, something Perry doesn't get enough credit for is his maybe not necessarily robust, but insightful class analysis. Perry centers his films.
I'm sorry. I don't know. Yo, she's going crazy right now in the background.
around working class and impoverished women's experiences. When we look at the greater landscape for Black women-oriented media and entertainment, it tends to skew toward a petite bourgeois image. Shows like Insecure, Girlfriends, Living Single, Being Mary Jane, etc. all focus mostly on a middle and upper middle class Black woman or something aspirationally connected to that class position. This is not a bad thing, and in many ways, it's meant to counteract much of the other ways that Black women are represented in our media. Black women on the whole are the most educated population in the country, so there's good reason to have such representation. However, this simply isn't all Black women or even the majority. Most Black women, like most Americans, do not have a 4-year college degree. Most Black women, like most Americans, have moderate to conservative beliefs, and Black women are more religious and attend church more than any other racial or gender demographic.
And so I do want to say here, and I promise you it's going to be a quick pause. Again, the naive me is asking, like, for what it's worth, this is probably more aligned with the Black experience that Tyler Perry is portraying, or even can I rewind to the woman in the background going crazy? All right, hold on. No, she's going, hey, I'm sorry. I had to lose FD for a second because she just started going insane.
Early on. And he added the Christian undertones to it, so he ended up replicating the type of emotional and physiological release that would often keep these same women coming to the congregation every Sunday for church. Further, something Perry doesn't get enough credit for is his maybe not necessarily robust, but insightful class analysis. Perry centers his films around working class and impoverished women's experiences. When we look at the greater landscape for Black women.
But yeah, I think a lot of these shows, like, and you know, I get if you look at the whole spectrum of what was going on. Yeah, she's going ballistic. If you look at the whole spectrum of what was going on, FD kind of laid out like his experience when he was younger and the type of content that was out there for him. And it's definitely this, like, you're slaves and we have this white savior coming to, you know, free you from this thing and blah. Okay, cool. And then you get into this era where, you know, even like Spike Lee's making it. Wesley Snipes has a little corporate job at the printing press, or Robin Givens is in marketing and all these things like that. And these people are living these, you know, for the most part, good lives. And you have movies like Soul Food, who they still have, you know, some ties to some normalcy. What's his name? Is that Mekhi Phife? Mekhi Phife gets out of jail and he's trying to figure out his way, and then he has to work at a printing press. But even for the most part, I'm thinking about that movie now. Nia Long, she didn't just work at the shop, didn't she? She owned that shop. If I'm not mistaken, she owned the shop. And then, I mean, we got people who are about to do successful music careers, lawyers, all this other. Not saying that, again, it's a bad thing to have people be in these different positions and all this stuff. Like, that's great for the movies. Living Single, all of them were successful. All of them had careers, all that, this, and the third. But not a lot of representation for the majority. Majority of these Black folks work at the post office. Majority of these Black folks work at the Amazon warehouse. Majority of these Black folks have a used pre-owned car that's around the same year that they were born. I'm talking about my demographic now. 96 is that's a little bit too much. Hold on now. Yeah. So writing from that perspective isn't the craziest thing in the world. At least that's what my naive self thinks.
This is not a bad thing, and in many ways, it's meant to counteract much of the other ways that Black women are represented in our media. Black women on the whole are the most educated population in the country, so there's good reason to have such representation. However, this simply isn't all Black women or even the majority. Most Black women, like most Americans, do not have a 4-year college degree. Most Black women, like most Americans, have moderate to conservative beliefs, and Black women are more religious and attend church more than any other racial or gender demographic. These were women that were constantly invisibilized by Black media, even Black media made by Black people or other Black women. And Tyler changed that and made them the center of his media all the way to the bank. I can argue that Tyler's work was, on the whole, still very damaging to the image of Black women in this country, and I will. But you can't argue that he filled a void that no one else was filling, and he should be commended for that. Perry never purported to be August Wilson. He never imagined himself as a visionary auteur. He's always presented himself as the workman's creative, making a lot out of a little, making soul food out of scraps, and that's valuable. This may sound blasphemous to some, but Tyler Perry is closer to William Shakespeare in terms of the role he plays with his plays in society than, say, a James Baldwin. As wild as that comparison.
People have to understand what he just said.
Oh my God, my boy say he's in the Aston doing donuts.
Tyler Perry is closer to Shakespeare.
Might seem to you.
Hold on, wait, my bad. I meant to bring this back.
What people in society then is closer to William Shakespeare in terms of the role he plays with his plays in society than, say, a James Baldwin. As wild as that comparison might seem to you, what people often forget about Shakespeare is that what made him a big deal in his time was his ability to bring together everyone for his plays to be consumed both by royalty and nobility, but also by the peasants and commoners that had to save up money to go to his shows. And Perry pretty much did the same. Even if you were a second generation HBCU student, like my wife, you likely still had women in your family that remind you of the Madea character. You probably weren't too many degrees removed from a cousin or neighbor who had a substance abuse issue that went undiscussed. And you probably had some memories of being in a church pew all day on a Sunday. Tyler's plays were fodder for Black Twitter conversations before Black Twitter was a thing. I remembered, even as a Muslim turned atheist in Atlanta in the early 2000s, hearing about his plays on my college campus on a regular basis, at the local malls, the barbershops, even my radio and music internships with other college educated Black folks. They were still talking about how much they loved his plays.
Yesterday, when I made the comparison between Tyler Perry and Obama, I think that y'all thought that I was playing. I really think that y'all thought that I was playing. So this is what, like, again, this all goes into the criticisms that people have about Tyler Perry. And I promise you, it's something that I just don't necessarily understand as far as the criticism goes. Knowing that you have different types of people out there who make different types of art, right? Different people make different types of art for different purposes, for different reasons. And while it's cool to have the person who makes the complex art, the art to be studied, the art to be broken down, and only a certain subsection of people are supposed to get this, there's also somebody who's going to reach or attempt to reach a broader audience. And so when people tell me, like, yo, why doesn't Tyler Perry change up his style? And why doesn't Tyler Perry go and what is his version of Malcolm X? And I'm thinking to myself, like, why? I don't know if Tyler Perry is trying to make a Malcolm X. And for what it's worth, I don't know why his bar or what he needs to prove to you is a Malcolm X. Like, does he need to make a Malcolm X in order to be in the conversation of these directors that we're having conversations with? I don't know. And maybe people do analysis a little bit differently. I'm just posing a bunch of questions and stuff like that, just trying to see what people. But maybe you don't put, like, I'm trying to think of a Judy Blume. I'm trying to think of a child's author. Maybe you don't put Judy Blume in the same conversations as, like, Edgar Allan Poe, right? I didn't want to use what's his name? Dr. Seuss. Hold on now. Not Nightshade going crazy.
Oh my God, my boy say he's in the Aston doing donuts.
This is a sick Negro.
20 gifted sub sandwiches. 20 gifted. $20 gifted sub sandwiches, 200 people in the building. I think
if you're near a convenience store right now, any type of 24-hour store, go into the store right now and put your hand in the cash register for no reason. Their money is your money as of right now.
Nightshade came and blessed the community Quasi style. Listen, man, I think that I gotta take the membership seriously now with the 20 gifted sub sandwiches. Appreciate you, Nightshade, for doing your big one on that. You did your big one on that one. Great, crazy big. Yeah, I'm gonna have to plan out some special stuff. Maybe some fiance streams. Maybe, and I'm speaking it to existence, when we get FD on this platform, in person, in the studio, we're gonna get FD Signifier in the studio. Might do a little 30-minute session before, 20-minute session beforehand. You know, do something like that. Go crazy like that. Let me make sure this doesn't keep going off. This is gonna keep going off. Okay, all right, okay. I'm pretty sure y'all can hear that. Let me make sure. All right, ma'am. Okay, that should solve that issue. All right, cool. Yeah, we'll get FD in the building and we'll do something special with the 20 gifted for the gifted. We're gonna do. I'm telling y'all. But nonetheless, yeah, I don't. Maybe people don't put Judy Blume and Edgar Allan Poe in the conversation when they talk about like great authors. Cool. I'm really donating for the next soundboard. This is your 4th or 5th soundboard. It's like my 5th soundboard, but that's okay. That's okay. And so if you don't categorize those authors the same way, I think that that's fine. But the reason why I'm even trying to paint this way is because you criticize Judy Blume differently than you criticize Edgar Allan Poe or anybody, in the same. You just criticize these two different types of authors the same. You criticize these people differently. You just do. So I don't know. I never had these like crazy harsh criticisms about Tyler Perry. Because while it's for me, it may not be for me. I don't know.
Tyler had done something special.
But with that being said, I told y'all yesterday that Tyler Perry and Obama had very big parallels to me. And I'm telling you, it's because of the way that the conversation was about Tyler Perry. In my life as a young black man living in Atlanta, frequenting the West End malls, my family's from the SWATs. I stay on the south side of town, but I got family on the north, east, and west side of town. Who goes to barber shops, who's played football, who's been in Big Brother, Big Sister, who's also been, at least I'll say a part of the 100 Black Men, who's been a part of black churches. Shouts out to Cascade. Who's done all these different things. The biggest conversational pieces in the black community when I was growing up, Michael Vick, Barack Obama, Tyler Perry, Robert, and probably Michael Jackson. But Michael Vick, Barack Obama, are Tyler Perry, for sure. There's an AJC newspaper of Michael Vick flicking off his audience. I remember it vividly, gang. I remember what it did. I remember being sat down in the 100 Black Men organization. I remember being sat down in church. I remember being sat down by my auntie. And you see this right here. This is not a role model. First of all, with the braids. Oh, Allen Iverson. I forgot about Allen Iverson. The braids and the dogs and oh man. And then when Michael Vick got caught with the dogs, boy, I'm trying to tell you though, boy. Whole different conversation. When Michael Vick got caught with them dogs, please, the history lesson, the talking tos that you got from that, the talking tos that you got from when Obama got elected, and the talking tos about Tyler Perry's productions.
Show that everyone could get behind at this point. Something that, as I said, was really hard to do. He had gotten rich and successful completely off of us. And few can say that. Pretty much, actually, no one can. Remember that for later. The chitlin circuit was never supposed to be this lucrative or create this type of cultural phenomenon, and it didn't. Perry wasn't the first Pew baby to make a play and hire some gospel singers to act in it, and he won't be the last. I remember many people trying to capture the success of the Chitlin Circuit stage play as he emerged as this phenomenon. But it makes me think of that line from Jay-Z where he says, I heard motherfuckers saying they made Hov say, okay, so make another Hov. It couldn't. It could only be a man as driven and as uniquely talented, and I mean that sincerely, uniquely talented as Tyler Perry. Before a single movie, before a TV deal, before the massive state-of-the-art studio, just off his stage plays, Tyler had made himself a multi-millionaire purely off catering to the black church and the black women who populated it. By 2005, after numerous touring plays, he had grossed close to $150 million between ticket sales, video, and DVD sales, along with...
My brothers in Christ and my sisters in Christ, because I know some of y'all are in here, look at these numbers that we're talking about. We are not talking about with a Caucasian fan base. We're not talking about going to get his... What's crazy is, what's funny, and this gonna be one of my questions, because he had to be old enough for this. Guys, for those that don't know, I'm not watching the whole 4-hour video in one go. I'm watching them all in parts. So we watched part 1 yesterday. We'll watch part 2 today, and we'll finish up with part 3, maybe part 4, and then hopefully special guest surprise at the end. No, actually not hopefully. And then special guest surprise at the end, speaking into existence. What's it called? I would have to ask this question to FD, or I would have to ask this question to my cousin or something like that. Gang, I don't even know where you would buy a Tyler Perry movie from. You know what? We got technology. I could do this. I'm going to make a phone call. Regis, I want to phone a friend. Whoa. Let's relax. I'm going to call my eldest cousin and see what she has to say. Because I do want to know. I don't even know where you would buy a Tyler Perry DVD from. Hola.
How are you?
Wait. Let me see something. Let me see if I can get you connected to this. Can you hear me? Okay, it won't work like that one. Okay, can you hear me now?
I can.
All right, cool. Keisla, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Look, this is gonna be crazy. I'm live. Don't say anything insane.
Okay.
I know you may or may not have seen it. There's a man on YouTube who did a 4-hour breakdown on Tyler Perry.
Okay.
It's a great video, 2 million views. I'm going through it. I have a question for you though.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to get people to understand how crazy Tyler Perry was. When Tyler Perry was on his rise, let's say like the early 2000s, where would you go to buy a Tyler Perry video from, or like a DVD of his work from?
Gosh, where? So I knew where his distribution center was years ago, where they actually would produce. So I've been there and bought, but I want to say you bought, I don't like on TV or something, because mommy and daddy used to buy his DVDs, or they would rent them and then do the wrong thing. They bought one of those VCRs that you could record.
Yeah.
So they would rent it at Blockbuster, put it in there, record it, and then I don't know, well, they're passed away, so they can't be arrested now. But then they would, do it and send it out to people for gifts.
Send it out to people for gifts.
They did. They did.
They would bootleg Tyler Perry DVDs and send bootleg Tyler Perry DVDs out to people as gifts.
As gifts. They would send it out and send it out to people. Yes.
Okay.
But that's the only thing I can't really remember, because I used to go to the plays a lot. I've probably been about 4 or 5 Tyler Perry live plays. But I just can't remember how I would get it. I think I was just renting it or getting it from the bootleggers.
And I guess if you go to the plays or whatever, you could buy them at the plays. Which
you could. I never did.
Yeah, I swear, I always assume people bought them from the gas station.
I can see that.
And then outside the mall in the man's trunk, or outside of Kroger in the man's trunk. But I'm trying to figure out, because there's some numbers that say like, oh, he did 20 million in sales for like videos. But if this is all from like, I guess he had a distribution center in Atlanta, like you're saying, and then the plays, like people were physically selling the CDs. Were they selling them in like Circuit Cities and Best Buys and Radio Shacks?
I don't remember that. I just can't remember that. I never remember buying a Tyler Perry was it VHS tape, but I remember having them because I was getting them bootleg.
Okay, I think this answers everything I need to know. Yeah.
But he did have a distribution center right there right up on North Side, North Side, right in that area.
And what you could buy, like just the films, or you could buy like merch and stuff too.
But see, back then he wasn't doing film. He was doing the plays, and the plays were being recorded.
Well, but what I mean by film is like the DVDs of the plays, like the recordings.
Yeah, you could buy there. And I think, and I don't know if everyone could buy there. I could buy there because I knew someone there. Okay. But I never bought from there, but I knew someone that was there.
Okay. That's what we needed to know. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Love you. Bye.
Bye. Love you too.
I also bring that up simply due to the fact that, like, I think that, again, this is all crazy. I knew majority of people that have them as bootlegs. And as she was just saying that my aunt and uncle are crazy. Bought the bootleg, downloaded the bootleg, and then distributed the bootleg as Christmas gifts.
This nigga doing the most.
Yeah, I think that's an insane thing. I'm trying to paint a picture for y'all too. I'm painting with FD. He might be painting a little better than me. I'm trying to paint with y'all. But just think about how crazy it is that he amassed that much money in the bootleg era. And it wasn't no distribution center. I'm pretty sure there wasn't no distribution center everywhere. And people weren't, I don't remember. Well, I was a child at this point for real, but I remember seeing little white disc with some Sharpie on it. A silver disc with some Sharpie on it, or a VHS with a little white sleeve with some Sharpie on the side. Especially for the plays. That's how I consume plays. I do remember the crude, I guess it was like a playbill that was on top of some stuff. And I probably know somewhere where I could get like original TP work, but I just find it amazing that he was able to get this amount of sales off with such a heavy bootleg market. That's crazy.
To $150 million between ticket sales, video, and DVD sales, along with merchandise. However, as inspiring as that is, I can't not be a bit cynical about how this relationship and this devoted audience has also worked to shield Perry from criticism.
Let's talk about it.
Whenever Perry is called out for a multitude of good reasons, he is quick to say something along the lines of, "My audience is all I care about," or "People don't care about the population I'm telling stories about, so why should I care about their opinions?" And these things are in some cases true, but they don't change the fact that Tyler Perry was a hack, right? Going back then, there are countless accusations of him stealing from other playwrights, not paying people what he said he was going to pay. The Madea character has been rumored to be stolen from a variety of people, although I don't agree with that, because first off, that was happening all across black media at the time.
Yeah.
We'll get to it. And we have to talk about the fact that he was catering to an audience that simply didn't have the highest standards in their entertainment and really just wanted to see a black man succeed, and he knew it.
He might have produced the bootlegs.
Didn't matter because it was still this internal, very black, very Southern success story, and it was only the beginning. So this massive studio...
I will say some of those criticisms are valid. Like paying people, I'm not ever doing that. Maybe one of those complex relationship with pay. If you're promising work, because I will say that about Tyler Perry, if you're hired, it seems like you'll always be in production with people. And I also want to talk about Country Wayne at some point in this conversation, but yeah, if it seems like if you got one job with Tyler Perry, you'll have a job for the rest of your life. Whether you ever come back and take it or not, whether you have a successful career in the industry on the mainstream or not, you will always have a job with Tyler Perry. Idris Elba, no matter how big he gets, will always have a job with Tyler Perry. Same thing with Spike Lee. Spike Lee and Denzel. No matter what goes on with Spike Lee, no matter what goes on with Denzel, if they hit each other up and say, brother, I need a hit, well, they gonna load up the pipe on them niggas, ain't it? They gonna get it off. Taraji P. But some of this stuff, like, yeah, like, Madea is a ripoff of some of the other, I think that's garbage. To the tune of like criticisms from people about his work in general. I do find some of it to be valid. You can have your criticisms. I would then just say, like, on this channel, we cover a lot of content. We talk about content all the time. That's literally all we do. We're commentary about content or things that go on the internet. And I don't cover everything. I get DMs about, yo, can you cover this? You cover that? At some point, I do have a bar, man. I don't consume all of it. So you got to stop consuming it. If you just got to stop consuming TP. But could he do better? I think we'll get into that in a little bit later.
Backlot is where Perry does all of his work. But this is not where things started. This is actually the fourth piece of property that Perry has called his studio, and obviously the most grand. He started out on Hoke Street in Northwest Atlanta, and then he moved to Krog Street, where the now Krog Street Market is. Then he went to Greenbrier over on the Southwest side. And this was a big deal at the time because he was becoming Tyler Perry. And suddenly he was attaching his grand vision to black people in Atlanta. And the same thing can be said for his current studios in Fort McPherson, which is still on the southwest side of the city, still in a black community, but a much bigger chunk of one. Perry says that he moved so much in part because he wanted capacity and autonomy, and he has it. This is his monument, his playground. So what is he doing with it? What is Tyler actually doing with all of this power? What is he giving us, or to be fair, his core audience with the resources he's amassed?
I have no writer's room. Nobody writes any of my work.
Never hungry, and the lights were never off, right?
Sickness in
so
your
I
body
give him
make
that.
you physically
and
people
I
love
feel
his
good
stories
about that
as well.
because no matter what the dream is, it's always changing
My work ethic is insane. I look at myself sometimes and go, are you kidding me?
So I have minimal skills with my hands, right? I can put together like IKEA furniture. I can do basic stuff. But this was my first time using a saw probably since high school. I wish I could say this is because I was too busy getting a bunch of degrees and being a smarty art Negro. But two of my homeboys here also have advanced degrees and less student loan debt. So yeah, I have no excuse. It's just something I never done.
I'd be letting Danielle do the work.
Really important.
No cap.
I could never do this without them. I would not be here, be in this position without community. I would not have gotten this far without all of you. Part 3, the Tyler Perry movie.
Okay, here we
So
go.
now we have to begin to discuss Tyler Perry as a filmmaker leading up to where he is now as a media mogul and cultural icon.
Okay, last things I'm gonna say on the specific play portion of the video is that two things. One, well, I'll say the first one. First one, having that autonomy is very, very important. I'm trying to tell y'all, even as a small project maker myself, a YouTuber, I possess all of my equipment. I have all my tripods. I have all my mics. I have 2 sets of this. Oh, people don't know that yet. I did get Danielle in a mic just like this one, and I have a stand. I have my own interface.
Oh my God, my boy say he's in the Ashton doing donuts.
I maintain 2 cameras. I maintain the computer. I have the lights. I have all these different things with me, so I can do whatever I want to do. And I've worked with people. I have wireless mics. I think I have 3 sets of wireless mics, 3 lenses. I have all the stuff. It's not top of the line stuff by any means. I could go higher. I don't see the purpose in going higher, but nonetheless, I could go higher in all of the things that I have, but I do have my own equipment. I say that to say, I've seen people work with other people's stuff because they just don't have the equipment. And to be at the mercy of those people is detrimental to the creative process, detrimental to lining in pockets, all those other things. I can light up a stream at 12 in the afternoon just as much as I could do it at 8 o'clock at night tonight, which I'll do. And I recorded a video right before I got on this stream. Why? Simply because I fucking can. I don't have to wait for anybody to do anything. Same thing with a movie. So all that Tyler Perry was able to get based on plays is impressive as hell. And then to have the wherewithal to say, like, there's a next evolution of what I'm trying to do from the play space to the big screen film space. That way I can reach more audiences it's insane. That's an insane concept. Very visionary, very, very wow. Again, I know people have their thoughts and criticisms about these things, but we've seen Tyler Perry or people like him in different iterations, and he does get a lot of flack right now, but hey, this is very much what Mr. Beast did or is doing right now, just in a different way, gang. In a different way, different time, different skin complexion. And I don't know if Mr. Beast gets the same criticisms as Tyler Perry does to the umph degree, to the noise. Now, again, he's not taking on the same topic, so there's like that baked into this, but niggas glazing Mr. Beast should be glazing Tyler Perry. I don't know. I'm not a TP shooter, though. Now, with that being said, though, FD was absolutely right about the conversation spawned from Tyler Perry's plays, because of the nature of them and the content and all this other stuff like that. And that was from the plays. Arguments at barbershops, arguments at family reunions and cookouts and different things like that. Like he said, pre-Twitter conversations, that 50-50. At 50-50 was getting played out on a stage, and then a dark-skinned man was backhanding a woman across the table. Not that deep. I'm lying. But the 50-50 conversation was being had on plays. People were consuming the plays, whether it was via bootleg, whether it was via going to all these different things, having those conversations in real time. At least for my thought process, where I think things go off the rails, and this is a lot of people's argument, is he goes from plays to film. For those that have seen a play and then a play turned into a film, or even a book and a book turned into a film, I think we can, all agree that when that transformation happens, my brother in Christ, the dramatization goes through the moon. It goes crazy. It goes crazy.
I will not be discussing all his films in this already very long video. There will be a separate, very long video released on my side channel that is more lighthearted and will create the ultimate Tyler Perry movie tier list. I'll also not be discussing his shows much because there's just too many of them.
Yeah.
He's directed, I think, like 2,000 episodes of television in the last 20 years.
God!
And I can't. This is long enough. We'll discuss the TV stuff a bit later for other reasons, however. Instead, I'm going to discuss what Tyler Perry is as a filmmaker and what his films have to say about him, and conversely, what
niggas producing 100 episodes of film or 100 episodes of television a year while also putting out movies.
it is that he wants to say to the
Mr. Beast weak. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all.
Oh my God, my boy say he's in the Aston doing donuts.
world through his films. Earlier, I talked about the state of black media historically and how the fact that black people have always had to filter our desires for art and images that represent us through a white supremacist capitalist framework. And this framework only cares about our art as far as our art is able to make them and the system money, all while also not being too upsetting to the status quo. Even with those constraints though, we have gotten amazing film and TV from gifted black artists throughout the years, and every so often we've even gotten radical and provocative work as well. However, at a certain point, things began to shift. The media landscape has changed, not just for black people, but really for everyone. There's a lot of reasons for this. There's the Telecommunications Act, which changed who gets to own media in our country. There's changes in technology, which dictate how we consume media. There's the presidency of Barack Obama, believe it or not, which really shifted the norms of how black people are perceived in media and the ways in which people think black people should be presented in both good and bad ways. And there's just the fact that society is slowly crumbling under the failures of late stage capitalism. So everything is more exploitative, more extractive, and more crappy than it seems like it used to be. Things have changed, arguably for the worse, for a variety of reasons. And one result of this is that someone like Tyler Perry now stands as one of the most powerful figures in media due to his amassed resources, dedicated fan base, and the fact that he is still highly independent from the machine and all the flaws within it. You may look at this as an unfair or maybe inaccurate position to put him in, but no black person has had more capacity to represent the interests of black people in the world of media than Tyler Perry, because of everything I spoke of in the previous section. And it's been like that for the better part of like 20 years. However, in those 20 years,
Madea.
My Chinese friend died from Korea. They put him in a box and put him some rice in it and sent him down the Vietnam River. That was when I was in the war in Iraq.
Watch the glass, big bitch.
Is she okay?
most of what I'm gonna say about Perry's films is gonna be focused on his thematic, symbolic, and political elements, or lack thereof. And there's a lot to say there, but first I wanna make it clear that even if Tyler Perry's films didn't feel like minstrelsy, didn't have awful political messages, and spread harmful ideas about black women, black men, and so many other things in between, he'd still be a bad filmmaker on a technical level, and I know this is a very cold take. What is interesting though is that he's always been bad, but unlike other filmmakers, he's oddly gotten worse over the years. Like the Tyler Perry movies that were distributed by Lionsgate in the mid 2000s and the 2010s are really much better, at least on a technical level, than the slop he's been putting out directly through streaming since around 2015.
I do wonder if, and he might get into it, and this isn't bail for Tyler Perry. I actually agree with this take. I mean, again, it's a cold take, but what's it called? I do wonder if that is a just Tyler Perry thing or just the industry as a whole. I think it's probably but like 50-50. Because also, like, for what it's worth, I think Adam Sandler films in the mid 2000s or whatever the case may be were better than they are now on Netflix. Just they're sloppy, they're lazy, all of that stuff. Lighting is bad, and there's a ton of criticism out there about like new age media. And granted, Tyler Perry could probably do things to fight that, but if this is the standard, why fight the standard? Again, not that I'm caping for this at all, but
It's like a unique form of enshittification. If you're not aware, enshittification is a term usually used to talk about social media apps in the tech space, where an app starts out cool, builds up a dedicated user base, then after it gets enough people, is purposely redesigned to be worse than what it was when you started liking it. And the reason for that is because it needs to become more profitable for the app's owners. Think about how Facebook and Twitter are basically unusable at this point to anyone who's just not locked in there because all their friends are there. Now take that and then apply it to Tyler Perry whenever he talks about his core audience not complaining about his movies. This would be a recurring topic, but once Perry recognized that there was nothing he could do wrong in the eyes of his core audience, his response wasn't to serve them with the best films he was capable of making. It was to instead milk them, to use their devotion to his films to parlay bigger deals with streaming services and TV networks, all while cutting as many corners as possible to maximize profit, which in turn makes his content much, much worse than it needs to be. As mentioned earlier, Perry was making Black-oriented films with topics and subjects that few, if any, Black filmmakers were talking about, and gearing them toward a working-class Black audience that was either ignored or exploited mostly by other Black films. On top of this, he also takes advantage of the wide belief that Black folks need to support other Black folks, especially in the world of art and business, because of our desire for liberation and to see other Black people succeed. So for years into his film career, he could guarantee a great box office return no matter what slop he put on the screen. And that's still the case today. In fact, it's probably worse. Wider Black audiences suffered through his earlier work because he wanted to support a Black creator making Black stories, and our repayment has been for Perry to give less and less effort over time. Hot off his success on the chitlin circuit and having already become a multi-millionaire, in 2005, Perry signed a distribution deal with Lionsgate Films, likely already with his first film, Diary of a Mad Black Woman, finished. Perry was a complete outsider then, as he is now, but he was always completely self-made and self-controlled. Unlike most filmmakers like the aforementioned Robert Townsend, who had to charge up his credit cards, Perry from the beginning could invest in and bet on himself, self-funding his first film and every film after, setting it up where he doesn't have to share profits with pretty much anyone else, which, as you'll see, is an extremely important pattern that will come up later. Perry is well known for a few things today, mainly writing, directing, and acting in almost all of his films and TV shows, filming at a breakneck pace and on a shoestring budget, and being completely in control. There is the infamous post he made years ago about his writer's room being empty because he is the sole writer and director for all of his work, to which many replied, "We can tell, Tyler."
Yeah. And I don't through this part, I'm not stopping because I think I agree. I think a lot of people agree. This right here is probably the biggest fault of TP. Especially at this age, at this specific age. At a certain time, it made sense. It made sense. It makes sense. But look at how much he has on that table. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, even at the small level that I am, I've gone ahead and sought out and employed 2 different writers for my channel, simply due to the fact that, I mean, one, actually, I think for the most part, I've always maintained a writer. One, I know I'm not good enough. Like, I'm not so narcissistic where I think that I'm good enough to the effect that I can like handle all these stories and scripts. And for what it's worth, I probably could to a degree, but it like the level of research, and I'm starting to talk to more people and starting to understand that like that's the lens that they view me from. That there's a level of research and information that my videos have that others don't. When I talked about like other reaction channels and other commentary channels and stuff like that, that was a praise that they gave me. And I know a lot of people, I guess they just don't know. It's because I have a team. It's because I have a team. It's either you do that or I give people maybe 3 uploads a week, maybe an upload a week, but I just, or I could still do speed and just do different things with the speed. It just won't have as much depth to the conversation. Tyler Perry's 10xing what I'm talking about. And that's not a great thing at this age. When you had to get it, you had to get it, boy. You know, you had to wake up at 5 and you went to sleep at 3 the night before or the morning before, and you just write. But now you can expand. And I wonder what the books look like to see if that's why the Empire expansion hasn't happened. But the reflection in the content, I mean, it feels like he's just in the room writing by himself. That's not a good thing.
We can tell no one else is writing these things.
Yeah, we know.
Or helping you get these scripts better. This would be impressive, and it is somewhat impressive, especially in a pre-AI era, but it's really not, because Perry is greatly recycling the same stories and themes over and over again, constantly leaning into tropes and cliches, as well as a lot of improv and movie plots that make little sense and feel like they've been changed on the fly.
Yep.
Tyler Perry movies are infamous for having bad acting, bad cinematography, nonsensical stories, and of course, the bad wigs. And he's all but said himself that this is a result of his filming schedule being more important to him than the actual quality of the films themselves.
I'd love to know, how do you go into sculpting the look of these characters?
Tyler Perry's
down, drag out argument about the wigs in one of the scenes.
No, okay.
In one of the scenes, it was very, very emotional for her.
I am always asking for things I feel I need as a character. As a woman and a woman of color, our hair is part of the journey. So it is very, very important. And for some people, it's hard to stress that is that important.
No, I think hair is very, very important. But figure that shit out before we get on camera is my whole thing. So long as y'all figured it out before it's time to shoot, I'm good. I don't have time to wait 5 hours and spend $10 million while you're trying to figure out which curl is better for you.
Which wig to do. I see you, sis. I see you.
In more typical film productions, there's the studio and the filmmaker working together but in separate spaces. The studio, which includes various producers, dictates budgets and makes hard decisions on what creative elements to a film will have to change based on those budgets. And then the filmmaker's role is to realize their creative vision under those constraints. Sometimes a filmmaker will have a ton of freedom for what they want to do, which can result in something like Sinners, or something maybe less good but still unique like Sucker Punch. Sometimes a film's constraints creates more innovation and better ideas, such as in the original Star Wars trilogy. In a perfect world, the artist would have less restraints, but as I said in my last video, Hollywood is an industry, not an art collective, so it exists to make money.
Yeah.
However, one would think with his level of control and alleged creative drive, Perry would be more lenient on himself to make sure he's making films that fit his creative vision. But it's pretty clear from the quality of most of his films that Perry is much more of a producer and studio owner than filmmaker. He puts self-imposed restrictions on his filming process, and they come out poor, not because Perry can't do better. In fact, he's proven that he can be a competent filmmaker when he wants, but it's because he is more concerned about the bottom line, which says a lot about him as an artist. For a wide example of this, think about what Adam Sandler has been for the last decade plus in most of his straight-to-streaming movies on Netflix versus some of the really awesome things he's given us when he's actually gave a shit about what he's creating. So let's talk about the actual movies. And again, I'm not at any point going to get into TV shows, but I will say that because they're cheaper, some of these technical issues don't carry over as badly versus what you expect from a major motion picture, something that you're going to commit 90 minutes to 2 hours to watch. And in Tyler Perry's case, very close to 2 hours a lot of times. He does not have an editor that says, maybe you should cut some of this shit. Perry's films can be separated into 3 categories: Madea movies, black thriller/drama movies, and his attempts at prestige films. And each genre has its own sets of patterns and features worth discussing. Out of these 3 categories, Madea films are the most infamous and most cheaply made, and to be honest, the most embarrassing. But there's actually 2 types of Madea movies. There's movies with Madea in them, such as I Can Do Bad All By Myself, Madea's Family Reunion, and
Madea Center movies,
which are movies where Madea is a side character or comedy relief that is actually a drama centered on other characters. Every once in a while with bigger stars mixed in like Taraji P. Henson. And then there's Madea movies, which are movies starring Perry as Madea, as well as 2 other characters, Madea's brother Joe and Joe's son Brian, as the focus of the films, such as in Madea's Halloween and Madea's Christmas, and almost anything starting with Madea as...
Not gonna cap. You know, as FD breaks this down, yeah, TP need to step it up. Hot take. Tyler Perry need to step it up. This is a little crazy.
as the film title. This distinction is important because it marks a difference in Perry's philosophy on making his films. The earliest Madea movies released by Lionsgate in theaters are much better than the later movies released mostly straight to streaming like Medea's Homecoming and Medea's Destination Wedding, both of which are some of the laziest, cheapest efforts that Perry has ever put to film. Like, take this scene from A Destination Wedding that's supposed to be in a DMV, but it's clearly him in an office and he's using a file cabinet as a camera stand. It's one of the weirdest and most unrealistic things you'll see in any other movie, except in Perry movies, this just happens all the time.
Mind you, he could have just had the young woman hold the camera. He could have literally just had the young woman hold said camera as opposed to doing what he's doing here. God, it's interesting.
Things weren't that bad in his earlier films released under Lionsgate, and that's because under Lionsgate, while Perry was still trying to solidify himself as a filmmaker,
he had to meet some standards.
He felt the need to be better is the best way to put it. And by the time he gets to streaming directly to Netflix and wherever else, he's like, enjoy your slot, people. This is exactly what you deserve.
Well,
Madea films all exist in the same universe with several long-standing characters and storylines, such as Brian and his family drama with his ex-wife, who's went from struggling with addiction to being married and then divorcing a millionaire. Madea has a variety of elderly and not so elderly side characters to do slapstick with, such as Medea's ex, Mr. Brown, whom she had her daughter with until it's revealed later that the daughter is not Mr. Brown's child. I think Madea has a large extended family, which is important because the members that come in and out of her life and need a support serve as the plot devices for pretty much all of these films. There's always an aunt or a cousin or a sibling with some type of dramatic something going on that Madea has to insert herself in to figure out a way to help out. However, even with all these characters, there's entire scenes of many of these movies with Perry just talking to himself as three different characters, Brian, Madea,
don't
and
hate.
Joe.
Yeah, let's get to the Prestige movies.
Kind of impressive.
Yeah.
Really
Come on now.
What's happening here? It's the most technically impressive thing that Perry does consistently, and the way he does it makes you sometimes forget he's literally talking to himself. Now, these scenes do carry on for far too long most of the time, and they're incredibly indulgent, but they're still impressive. To be fair to Perry, he's actually a pretty engaging and magnetic character actor, and he has a great screen presence, whether as Madea or whatever other characters he plays that's not Brian. He was good in Gone Girl. He was fun in Ninja Turtle.
Yeah, his character of Brian is kind of stale. It's just there. But when he's Joe and when he's Madea, boy, he be spitting.
Alex Cross exists.
You making TTX? You're making TTX? I don't know what you're talking about. Are you making TTX? I don't know what you're talking about.
But Brian is a version of like regular Tyler Perry.
Formula for filmmaking, and is just a great black character actor like Keith David or Ving Rhames or something. And we see this in most of the Madea films whenever he's not playing
Brian
himself.
Brian kind of mid, yeah.
Common type of
Brian is just Tyler Perry if Tyler Perry wasn't famous. That's literally who/what Tyler Perry would be.
Film from Tyler Perry are his drama/thrillers such as Daddy's Little Girl or The Family That Prays. Those two being his earlier efforts that were released in theaters. And then when he got to streaming, he had more thrillers like Mea Culpa and A Fall from Grace. None of these are good, but they are more competent and effortful than his Madea movies overall. With Daddy's Little Girls and The Family That Prays specifically, these seem to have been the efforts for Perry to really have crossover traditional success. These movies starred more relevant and accomplished.
Hold on now. Daddy's Little Girl is a hit, motherfucker. I ain't gonna lie.
To come that were probably turned off by the Madea character. Something to note going forward is that none of Tyler Perry's movies have been box office juggernauts. All but one movie has made less than $60 million at the box office. So before his streaming deals and his TV deals, I figured Perry felt that he'd have to find a way to cross over his films to get to the big money. Because traditionally, black films just don't get tons of money, and they definitely don't make money overseas. An all-black audience just doesn't have the same level of value as a much larger white audience or an international audience, all of which are not interested in anything having to do with Madea.
Yeah.
So many of his early dramas try to tap in with that hood drama or prestige drama bag. Then there's Tyler Perry's sexy thrillers, which again are feeding an underserved audience.
Now these are,
the sex thriller specifically is a genre that even white audiences have less of since the mid-2000s. Movies like Basic Instinct and Fatal Attraction were huge deals. There was that one movie that I feel like I watched 500 times in college, starring Harrison Ford and I think Michelle Pfeiffer. I don't remember what it is, but if you're my age, you know
What Lies Beneath is the name of that movie.
Put on. And then we had black versions like Twa or Devil in the Blue Dress. I still don't know how to pronounce Troy. People that have been with me since the very beginning get that joke. If you haven't, you never will.
It's pronounced choice.
No longer exists. So this whole genre of film is basically out of theaters and only on streaming services, and Perry has cornered the market in the black version of it. Paradoxically, while his non-Madea movies are less embarrassing to like watch and better made overall, they end up being worse because it's clear that he's trying at times, and the failure is more glaring in that regard. The Madea movies are filmed basically like plays half the time, and I would often give them a pass because while a lot of the stuff is bad in them, it's very clear that he's just following a formula and
that works,
giving the people exactly what they want. You know, you can't complain too much about that. But in these other movies that were supposed to be taken seriously, that are supposed to be for more people, for example, Why Did I Get Married? That's probably the last Tyler Perry movie I saw of my own volition, and it's where I realized just how bad he was as a filmmaker. In this film, on so many occasions, especially at the beginning, actors just come into the foreground and basically explain their whole story and their characters to the audience.
I will say this, and I want to know if people do agree with this sentiment though. If Tyler Perry was just a writer, I wonder if his movies would be much better. Like the end goal. If Tyler Perry was just writing these films and then had directors direct these films, producers produce these films. If he wore one hat instead of three, would it be better? Some people say that like Tyler Perry's worst hat is his worst hat ain't writing. Let me not. That's no. I don't even want to give those people any credit. But if Tyler Perry wrote a movie and Ryan Coogler directed it, how do you think it would end up? Oh, the chat messed up.
Things still feel like they go on forever because Perry doesn't know how to tell a story without the actors just sitting.
Hold on. I think the chat is messed up. Chat not too important on screen, but let me pop up chat. I don't know how I got frozen, but it is what it is. Okay.
Here and reading their plot off a page.
When we were in college, did you think that we'd be doing what we said we'd be doing? I mean, look at me, pediatrician, doing well, private practice. Diane's top litigator at her firm. You, top architect. Trisha's a best-selling author, man. I'm proud of us. I think we did all right.
There's this whole beach scene in this movie where none of the men are wearing shirts except Tyler Perry, of course, but also somehow they're not wet at all. They're clearly very oiled up and shiny to make sure we can see every muscle and vein on the man, a motif of Perry's that we'll talk about later.
Whoa!
And they just explain the plot and backstory of as many characters as possible for a good 10 minutes before the movie actually starts. And it's really amateur storytelling, and it's something Perry does all the time in all of his films. And these are the films that seem like they have more effort, but they end up showing his artistic limitations. Then finally, you have his prestige films, of which I'd say there are only 4. These films only seem to happen every blue moon. Often, I'd say when Perry is working with material that's not his, or
kind of cooks on some of these.
Someone else where he doesn't have to foot the bill. When Perry's working outside of his personal brand, it's like he feels the need to show he has the ability to be much more competent, which is a damning indictment for all the things I've already said. His first truly out-of-character effort for Color Girls is bad on a lot of levels, especially in terms of how he mutilates the original messaging of the story, not to mention the fact that he essentially forced out the original intended director and writer of the film, Giza Stewart, in order to take full control of it and, of course, take all the profit. But it is a much more competent film for him. And there's moments of genuine creative brilliance, like the back alley abortion scene with Macy Gray. Then there's the 688 starring Kerry Washington, which was done in conjunction with Mandalay Films.
I haven't seen
this one. So this is a serious movie, and there's nothing really especially bad about it. It's competent but unremarkable, although there are some elements in it that reflect other problems we'll get to later. There's also The Jazzman's Blues, which is a film that's actually just good. It's just a good movie, and it's something he did all on his own under his production company for Netflix. The weird thing here is I had never heard of this movie. He didn't do anything to promote this movie. I've never heard anyone talk about this movie. It's like he wanted to hide it in order to hide evidence of him being a confident filmmaker, lest his audience might expect that from him all the time. And then I will also put Straw here, one of his most recent films, even though it was clearly made relatively cheaply because it was all filmed basically in one spot, and I think in like a week. But the acting is much better. And the premise, while extremely heavy-handed, is a really, really good idea for a story. These stories about someone being driven to the edge by extreme circumstances, they've been done to death, mostly with white men in films like Falling Down or Arlington Road. Denzel even got a version of it in John Q. But we've never seen a black woman centered in such a story. And I think that's an excellent idea to explore overall. Because if anyone has a reason to snap, it's probably black women, especially this one who's having the most Tyler Perry Black Woman Day possible in all the history of bad days. And don't get me wrong, a lot of parts of this annoy me, but it's again a pretty competent, well-made film. I even didn't predict the twist this time around. Then again, I don't know if you could ever predict Tyler Perry's twists because they make absolutely no sense.
Hey.
These movies have no awful wigs, competent lighting, less improv. They're just decent movies. But the fact that they're so rare says a lot. It says that Tyler Perry is not about the art, he's about the money. He's a producer more than a writer or director. He undermines himself in ways that other artists hate to be undermined by their studio execs and producers. And it forces his work to be rushed and slapped together. Tyler Perry, when he wants to be, can be funny. He can come up with some interesting story ideas, but that's not his primary goal in the creative process. For example, there's this sequence in one of the worst late stage Madea movies where out of the blue, Tyler Perry comes up with this sketch where we follow Madea back in time to the 1950s.
Totally random. I remember this.
Her boyfriend, Archie, has left, and she realizes he might have left her for her roommate, Rose. So she calls up Rose's job at the NAACP looking for her. And when they tell her where she is, she goes...
Mind you, and I don't want to spoil it, gang, the person is Rosa Parks. And Rosa doesn't want to get off the bus because she's about to confront her.
Looking for her again and finds her on a bus. And then we realize that Rose is Rosa Parks.
Rosa, I don't get off the bus, Rosa. Rosa, don't sit there like a bus driver. You better, I don't give a damn. You better open this door.
If I'm not mistaken, too, the people on the bus are literally like mannequins in this film. Somebody said, but it was fire though. Like, no, bruh, no, I ain't gonna listen.
Off the bus, Rosa. I'm gonna get you, Rosa.
Mannequin.
And this is presented as the real reason that Rosa Parks didn't get off the bus and that Madea accidentally started the civil rights movement all by herself. Now, you might find that offensive, and you probably should, but I laughed my ass off here because it's so bizarre and creative that I couldn't help but laugh. And I'm thinking to myself, if you could come up with this, where is this? Why are we doing pee and poop jokes for half the movie half the time in these Madea movies?
I also think if Tyler Perry was like a YouTuber, people would love Tyler Perry. If Tyler Perry current day was a YouTuber, people would love Tyler Perry. Not even trying to be funny. Because this is very much like YouTube content. He just has a bigger platform than YouTube to put shit on. Y'all are eating this shit up. That was it was the most all right, bruh. And I swear to God, I can't remember what movie it was on. I can't remember what movie it was. When I say that this flashback is so abrupt, it's absolutely insane. But yeah, if Tyler Perry was a YouTuber, he is literally the inspiration. Jade says Tyler Perry's just old Drewski. Drewski, Mr. Beast, Kai Cenat. All these people are Tyler Perry. If he was a YouTuber, it would be okay. But he's not. So, you know. Oh, but let me also say this. I mean, I agree with the sentiment that he could be doing these things. And again, just say it ain't funny, bro. Just trying to like, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculously funny, I guess. But if we put this in the sense of like the creative space that I sit in, and I'm just thinking about me, you know, I've done the math before, and everybody's done the math before. I think it was maybe October, maybe December, this past December. I don't know. It was definitely recent. I did like 1.9 or 1.8 million views on the channel. And this is when I had threw up a couple of shorts, but for the most part, I think like 1.7, 1.8 of those million were long form. Shouts out to y'all. Appreciate y'all, you know, for showing up and showing out. Now, with that being said, I started doing the math. I said, so I upload I uploaded maybe 20, let's just say 20 times that month. Could I upload 40 times? Okay. I can upload 40 times. What if I upload 60 times? What if I make my channel a reaction channel? Let's talk about it.
Oh my God, my boy say he's in the Aston doing donuts.
No, real rap is this.
This is a sick Negro.
Yeah, so so when I did that, I was like, that's cool, fine and dandy. But for what it's worth, I don't know if I want to make 3 videos a day every day for a year. I don't know if I want to make 3 videos a day every day for 2 years, 3 years. It's just too much. Now, I do know the money behind some of these channels. Them folks doing 20, 30,000.
Oh my God, my boy say he's in the Aston doing donuts.
Them boys is doing 20, 30,000. Straight up. 20, 30,000. Yeah, somebody said just imagine how many sweaters. Whoo, I be sweater down. 20, 30,000. But with that also being said, how impactful would I be as like a content creator if I just decided to spam content like that? At least in my mind. What's the longevity look like? Do I even have the voice or the presence for that? I think if you like build up a presence, so like if you've already become famous for something else and then you start spamming out the content, okay, it makes a lot of sense. That's why Adam Sandler is doing all these little Netflix movies now, because he's already got the cachet in the space, so he can do that. But for me, I miss doing the skits. I don't know if the viewership that's in here right now remembers, I used to do skits in some of the videos. I used to bring guests in some of the videos. And you can't do that if you're doing 3 videos a day. You just can't. You literally cannot do 3, 4 videos a day. And, bring in the guests or do the skits or go out there and see this, go out there and see that. It's very hard or damn near impossible. So
Perry has ideas when they're there, but he doesn't care. He wants cheap. He wants quick. He wants the widest possible profit margin, so he will put out projects far less than what he's capable of putting out because he knows he's the only one with the product and his audience will watch it regardless. Thus, because of his need to make things cheap and easy, actors and staff are not having fun on set. This is a well-known thing amongst the acting in Hollywood spaces I'll get to later. They also don't get enough time to prepare, so they have to change different emotional valences all through these long filming days, which is why the acting always seems so bad in his movies. He's also often only taking 2 or 3 takes of a scene and then moving on without proper coverage, leaning on improvisation and last-minute rewrites and editing to make the story come together to make some semblance of sense. And sometimes even that still doesn't work. For example, in the aforementioned Madea's Homecoming, the story first revolves around one of the character's sons coming home for his college graduation with a big secret to reveal.
This is the movie.
He's gay.
This is the movie.
Initially, this actually is a big deal for Tyler Perry. Despite rumors about Perry's personal life, which we will get into, Perry's films have not been very kind to queer people due to the focus on Black church sensibilities. So this is a welcome development to have a film that takes a moment to engage with the experiences of gay men and the types of communities that Madea movies are a part of. But I feel like maybe Perry got cold feet half the way through. As the story unfolds, initially the audience is led to believe that this character is coming home with his gay partner. Both of them are very gay coded. There's a whole uncomfortable scene with Joe making homophobic jokes directed at both of them. Of the 2 actors, one actually is gay in real life and the other has most notably played a gay character. So this seems like it was originally meant to be the plot through and through. But then halfway through the movie, they wrap up the gay part of the plot pretty much off screen damn near. The gay son basically disappears and suddenly the movie's about this friend who we thought was gay, but he's not. He's actually dating the gay
mom.
guy's mom.
The mom.
Somehow the whole time.
The gay guy is dating the guy's mom.
This nigga doing the most.
This is a sick Negro.
Yeah. TP kind of, yeah.
Like, it makes no sense because they were traveling what seems like was very far away for, you know, graduation or something. So, like, at what point in time was this affair happening? Also, now there's a deadbeat father that wasn't here, but he's here now because he's an asshole. But the deadbeat father is dating the mother of the gay son's best friend, which is also a secret. And then the gay son,
I'm about to say, there's another plot twist, by the way.
Son's assumed partner, who's actually dating the mother, is half Irish. So now we have an excuse to bring in, I believe her name is Miss Mabel, who is basically Irish Madea. Me and Eye Patch Wolf had this sad when doves cry Simpsons moment when we both realized that Ireland literally has its own Madea character with all of the same offensive problems. None of it makes sense like it all. But Tyler Perry knows it doesn't have to.
An Irish Madea in real life? No way. No, if y'all watch that movie, this is when, yeah. This sounds so bad, I just might have to watch it. And that's how Tyler Perry gets you, guys. That's how Tyler Perry gets you. It is something worth watching. I ain't gonna lie, though. Apparently, this new Joe movie, Joe's College Trip or whatever, crazy, out of pocket. It's probably got to be watched.
Tyler Perry relies on characters to behave in ways that are completely devoid of human behavioral patterns in order to allow for his plots to change at the drop of a dime to make sure that he doesn't need to reshoot anything or rewrite anything to save him money. In another Madea movie, the aforementioned Medea's Destination Wedding, we see Brian's daughter all grown up and having had an incredibly sudden wedding proposal at the behest of her once estranged and drug-addicted mother, who's now rich and posh because of her new husband, who's a millionaire. But we find out halfway through the movie that they're getting a divorce for no apparent reason. Like, I don't know why that's happening, to be honest. And despite the fact that this mother was not around and was an addict most of this girl's life, the daughter and her brother seem to be perfectly fine with her and is listening to her to get married to a man that only the mother has met. Meanwhile, Brian, the father that raised her this whole time, is completely in the dark about the whole situation. And then we meet this guy at a dinner that looks like it's at Red Lobster, but you know, whatever, Tyler Perry.
Oh my God.
Scene, this guy that the daughter is marrying acts like every bad caricature that old people have about young black men. It's low-key offensive. He's so bizarre and inhuman and like says the most disrespectful possible things in this scene.
Who are you? I'm your daughter's man.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's up, my nigga?
What? I'm your daughter's man. What's up, my nigga? Oh, no. Wow. Somebody said CJ Stroud in the chat. No way.
And like says the most disrespectful possible things in this scene.
Who are you? I'm your daughter's man.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's up, my nigga?
What is happening right now?
Yeah, that's because I wanted to be sure.
I'm sorry, be sure about what? Did you want to still date him? What?
Shit, more than that, I'll be hitting that.
Oh, okay, stop it.
What is going on?
But nobody seems to realize that except for Brian. So, you know, we just have inhuman, non-real characters this entire time. But 45 minutes later, he's basically a whole different character. He's with this woman we haven't seen yet, also in the Bahamas. I'm pretty sure this is just an excuse for Tyler Perry to take his friends on vacation, but whatever. This other woman here in the Bahamas with them is assumed to be and kind of presented as a side chick. And like all the characters come together and they have this whole conversation.
That's his mom.
Where he's accused of cheating and seemingly
That's his mom, y'all.
And the daughter's there and she storms off. This is the big, like, almost falling apart moment. And this new female character doesn't say shit this entire scene. She just looks around and mugs at the camera. I am positive she did not know what character she was playing for this scene, but 2 scenes later, she shows up again, and she's actually this guy's mother who wasn't invited to the wedding.
I told y'all, it's the mom. It's always the mom. I've never seen that movie before. It's the mom.
Why didn't she say this in this moment 10 minutes earlier when it mattered the most and could have fixed all the problems? Because Tyler Perry doesn't know how to write a fucking plot. That's why. And then all of a sudden, the boyfriend talks like a normal guy, and him and Brian piece it up so a wedding can happen, and it's really bad and really dumb, and I feel really sad for the thing I'm about to say next. I don't know if there's any way to get around saying that Tyler Perry's core audience is simply not an audience with developed taste for quality in media, to put it as nicely as I possibly can. I would love to not come off snobbish or to offend anyone, to not fall into the trap of being someone who points at something that brings others joy and looks down on them for it, because who am I to do such a thing? I still like professional wrestling. I don't watch as much as I used to, but I still love it. And professional wrestling is very fucking stupid. In fact, I have trash taste in so many ways, but I balance that out with other things in my media diet, and I don't know if that's happening with Perry. But
okay, that's where we're gonna end for today. You know why? You know why I think we're gonna end there for today? I think this is actually gonna be great. I want to give people the opportunity to go watch some of Tyler Perry's content. Because I do see some people in the chat. Yo, his mom's bad too. Y'all gotta relax. I do see some people in the chat who have, they're saying they haven't seen this. They're saying they have not seen this. And so I think it's very interesting for people to go watch some of Tyler Perry's content. So take today, watch Tyler Perry's content. We watched an hour and 30 minutes of this specific video. We still got a long way to go. We're not even halfway there just yet, but an hour and 30 minutes of this video. We're going to circle back to this. What's tomorrow? Thursday? Is tomorrow Thursday? Oh, we can circle back to this tomorrow. Circle back on this one tomorrow. And we will keep going. But take time, consume Tyler Perry's content. Some of the newer stuff, specifically the newer stuff. The challenge is going to be, what's the new... I mean, watch whatever he just said, but also this new one, Joe's College Road Trip. It just released in February. So watch Joe's College Road Trip on Netflix, hour and 51 minute movie. They say it's like, I've been seeing stuff that say that's his worst yet. Yeah, watch the Joe one. Appreciate Nightshade for donating those gifted subscripciones, those memberships. While you're watching content, go back and watch some of the content that I put out on the membership platform. There is some membership content out there. We'll have to make some more. Everybody set them alarms. I need to make a new thumbnail. We'll get back into the next portion of this long video. Wow, this person, MP, says, what did I say, chat, about Omar not talking about the essay allegations? Gang, there is still a long portion of this video left. There's an hour and a half that we have watched. It's a 4-hour-long video. Those things, as he has referenced, are going to come up. You've got to relax, brother. You've got to relax. He's going to spill the load all over the place. All right. Same time tomorrow. We'll see you then. Until next time. Bye.